Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Aaron.
Aaron is present, everyone. Thank you for joining me for a little bit more SPTV, where every day is a great day for David Miscavige to suck it. That's a new intro I'm trying out, guys. By the way, before I forget, I have pledged to donate $500 to the Aftermath Foundation, which helps people who are escaping from Scientology, once I hit 170,000 subs, and I'm not that far away. So if you like what I do here on this, channel, and if you'd like to help support the Aftermath Foundation, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Guys, Yashar Ali has dropped a bombshell piece yesterday about Shelly Miscavige and the LAPD, and how the LAPD not only failed to follow proper procedures in following up on the missing persons report when they met with Shelly Miscavige, but they took an unprecedented step of destroying the evidence of the meeting. And in Yashar's report, he also publishes the most recent photo anyone has of Shelly Miscavige from a it's a DMV photo. This piece from Yashar, I think, puts him right near the top of the investigative journalists on the subject of Scientology. I'd say Tracy McManus at the Tampa Bay Times is arguably the number one. I think this puts Yashar as the number two, and Jeffrey Augustine at the Scientology Money Project is right up there as well. I mean, this piece from Yashar is outstanding, and I'm going to share some sections of it with you. But before I go through actually just reading directly from it, here's the bullet points I made, that sort of the takeaways of the most egregious missteps by the LAPD. And based on the entire article, there's no question in my mind that these missteps are not incompetence. It's not oversight. It's not accidents. It's pure corruption. So the LAPD did not meet with Shelley at a police station or in her actual location. They agreed to meet in a coffee shop in Covina, California. They got her photo ID and they took her fingerprints. But when they ran the fingerprints to see if it matched the fingerprints on file with the DMV, the fingerprints did not match. And it's not that they were a mismatch. The prints were of such poor quality, they could not be matched. The LAPD did not go back and get another set. While meeting with Shelley, they did not tell her she was the subject of a missing persons report. It sort of makes you wonder what the hell Shelley thought she was meeting with the police for. But according to the documents, according to the investigation into this, the detectives did not tell Shelley she was the subject of a missing persons report. They did not tell Shelley that it was Leah Remini who had filed the missing persons report. They did not ascertain from Shelley at this meeting why she had gone into seclusion. Why had she disappeared from public life? Apparently, the question was not asked. Someone might argue, well, it's not the police's place to ask. I don't know what the proper procedures are. But as it has been reported, this would have been a normal thing to ascertain in the visit. This was not ascertained. Not presenting, one of the quotes from the article says, not presenting Shelley with this critical information goes against every standard practice of law enforcement when a missing adult is found, even if they claim they are voluntarily missing. They also did not inform Leah Remini of the result that they believed they had located Shelly Miscavige, even though Leah was the one who filed the report. Instead, the LAPD put out a press release in violation of their standard procedures. This does, by the way, the fact that they did not tell Shelley that Leah had filed a missing persons report about her automatically calls into question all of the statements Scientology has put out, allegedly from Shelley, claiming that Leah Remini is harassing her and that Shelley would never meet with Leah because Leah is basically an apostate. Scientology has put out statements like that. And yet, if the police never informed Shelley that Leah had filed this report, that shows Scientology statements they put out, allegedly on behalf of Shelley, were completely false. Okay. They also, in the piece that the LAPD put out in the press release, they said they determined the report to have been unfounded instead of simply saying that Shelley had been located and was okay. The LAPD putting out the wording of this statement in this way was essentially a favor to Scientology, who then used the LAPD statement to smear Leah. 1 week after the meeting with Shelly Miscavige at this coffee shop, the LAPD went back to the coffee shop, took the surveillance tapes, and scrambled them. What the hell? I mean, that was the part. I mean, that's pretty early on in Yashar's reporting on this. I was like, what? What more evidence do you need that the LAPD is doing the bidding of Scientology than to go back and destroy the video evidence that they actually had met with Shelley? Absolutely unbelievable. Also, the LAPD refused over many years to provide Leah Remini with the documents that were being requested about the nature of how this meeting went down. Leah spent north of $50,000 on lawyers' fees and, Freedom of Information Act fees. Now, FOIA might be a federal law, but the right to know law, whatever laws are in place, whatever infrastructure exists to procure public information from public institutions, Leah Remini followed those procedures. The LAPD refused to cooperate in any way, shape, or form. One of the greatest things about that's in this piece here is Yashar's documentation of the LAPD's history of treating Scientology like a peer instead of treating them like someone who is a part of an investigation. Okay, so with all of that being said, let me get to the actual piece itself. And I'm going to read select port. I've given you the highlights. If you guys want to tap out now, you can tap out now. Those are the highlights. But I really want to share with you the details of this reporting. Truly, it's so good. It's a pleasure to read. So let's go. Exclusive, Shelly Miscavige and the missing Scientologists. How the LAPD made Scientology's problem go away. Those are the actual fingerprints. That is what Shelly Miscavige looks like. Now, this photo is, I've got it. We'll see it in the article here. I believe this is a photo from 2010. Now, if this was a photo from 2010, wouldn't there be a more updated driver's license photo? Driver's license are not valid for 14 years, right, guys? What do I know? I grew up in a cult, but I'm pretty sure I go to the DMV to renew my license more often than every 14 years. So Shelly Miscavige's DMV photo, which was taken back in 2010. It's the first photo of her released to the public since 2004. Bracketing her image are fingerprints given by the woman identifying herself as Shelly Miscavige for detectives from the LAPD Missing Persons Unit. Do driver's license photos usually look that sad? Come on now. I don't think you're supposed to smile, but good Lord. All right, let's see. On Thursday, I'm not going to read this whole thing, guys. I've gone through this. There's sections I'm going to read. On Thursday, August 8th, 2013, just after 5 p.m., two Los Angeles police detectives traveled down California Highway 210 toward a coffee shop. They were headed to rendezvous with a woman whose friend, a famous actress, had reported her missing after not hearing from her for over 7 years, and after the woman hadn't been seen or heard from by people she had known for decades. The missing woman's attorney arranged the meeting, scheduled after a short period of rapid negotiation between the detectives about where the woman would agree to meet and what she would do, what she would agree to do when she met them. Again, if they didn't tell her that it was because of a missing persons report, what did they think was going on here? As they pulled up to the coffee shop, the detectives faced a woman who said she was Shelly Miscavige, the wife of Scientology's leader, David Miscavige. Jeffrey Riffer, a longtime attorney for Scientology, accompanied the woman. The detectives checked her ID, took her fingerprints, and returned to LAPD headquarters. The next day, two LAPD lab technicians determined that the fingerprints taken at the coffee shop could not definitively be matched to the fingerprints the California DMV had on record for Shelley. Instead of contacting Shelley's attorney to arrange for another set of prints to be taken, the LAPD removed her from the missing persons database, closed the investigation, and issued a press release saying that the missing persons report had been unfounded. Fingerprint experts who examined the prints told me they shouldn't even have attempted to match the fingerprints. The prints taken by the LAPD detectives were not of a high enough quality to conduct a match. Without prior knowledge about the subject or her association with Scientology, one of the experts I interviewed asked if the person who provided their fingerprint had been trained to intentionally leave a fingerprint that wouldn't be suitable for a match. This alarming lapse, which has never been reported before, is just one piece of a larger story that reveals that the LAPD has repeatedly disregarded standard law enforcement procedures to protect Scientology. Okay, let's see. But not getting a second set of prints from the woman claiming to be Shelley was just one of the things the LAPD didn't do in this case, that at best would involve incompetence and negligence. And at worst, that certain LAPD employees were engaged in a conspiracy to protect Scientology from law enforcement action. Days later, for unknown reasons, and even though the missing persons investigation into Shelley had been closed out, the detectives contacted the coffee shop to obtain security camera footage from the meeting. When the coffee shop sent the footage over a week later, the videos for all the cameras were inexplicably scrambled. As part of reporting this story, I reviewed the footage and confirmed that it was unusable for any investigative purpose. The meeting at the coffee shop was ignited by a missing persons report filed by one of the most well-known Scientologists at the time, actress Leah Remini, in the summer of 2013. I'm sorry, I skipped ahead and now it doesn't make sense. Who was best known at that point for co-starring in the CBS sitcom King of Queens in the summer of 2013. After years of torturous abuse at the hands of Scientology and its top officials, Remini and her family left Scientology. Okay, fast forwarding. Okay, this is the section where Yashar indicates the various ways in which the LAPD treats Scientology as a peer. So let's take a look at this. Stunning abandonment of standard law enforcement procedures. In the missing persons report that Remini filed, she had told detectives that she, along with many of her friends and colleagues of Shelley, were concerned about her safety. Okay, we're going to go forward. He points out that it is shocking that the LAPD closed the file when the prints came back unable to be matched, instead of going back, following proper procedures, and getting a set of prints that actually matches. And he goes, but it gets worse. My sources and a review of documents told me that Shelley was not informed that she was the subject of a missing persons report by the LAPD detectives, and that Remini was the one who filed it. There's also no indication that they ascertained why she was missing or what led her to withdraw so severely from life and her friends. Not presenting Shelley with this critical information goes against every standard practice of law enforcement when a missing adult is found, even if they claim they are voluntarily missing. The LAPD detectives met with the woman claiming to be Shelley and her attorney, Jeffrey Riffer, in Covina, an incorporated city with its police department in Los Angeles County. Law enforcement experts who spoke to me, including LAPD sources, said that detectives should have arranged to meet with the woman and her attorney at the Covina Police Department. As a courtesy, Covina PD would have given the LAPD detectives a private room, and cameras would provide security footage if needed. If Shelley was indeed accompanied by security, the detectives could have required them to wait outside as they met with the woman claiming to be Shelley and her attorney. LAPD, which does not train its officers and detectives on Scientology policies and how to deal with cult-like organizations, treats Scientology as if it operates like any other organized religion. Based on my reporting, it takes it a step further. What LAPD did in this instance, or instead what they didn't do, and what they have done in some other cases involving Scientology, is give Scientology the equivalent of law enforcement courtesy and reciprocity. This is so huge in my opinion. For example, if the San Francisco police were to send a message to the LAPD about a case, the LAPD's position would be to trust the accuracy of what the SFPD communicated unless something disproves what they said. In the case of Scientology, the LAPD has consistently taken Scientology's word for it. Usually it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for a law enforcement agency to assume that a prominent attorney at a major Los Angeles firm would represent their client's best interests and tell the truth. But attorneys for Scientology operate differently. L. Ron Hubbard wrote policy letters making it clear that instead of seeing attorneys as well-educated, experienced counsel who could guide Scientology, they were tools for Scientology to do its business, and that attorneys hired by Scientology should bend to Scientology's objectives. It is an exchange Scientology attorneys make for incredibly consistent business. I reviewed one Scientology internal document from the early 2000s that revealed that two longtime Scientology attorneys had billings of over $250,000 each over an 11-month period just for one department and one organization in Scientology. That does not include their work for other Scientology organizations and projects. Scientology has dozens of attorneys on retainer at any given time. All right. He says, I have no evidence that Riffer lied to the LAPD about Shelley's state of mind and communication with her, and I'm not suggesting it. I am suggesting that he was likely lied to by Scientology officials, and he telegraphed those lies to the LAPD. The LAPD is not set up to deal with how an organization conducts itself, impacting how Scientology-related crime is reported and handled. That's incredible. Okay, so we're going to skip forward through this section here. Yeah, we're just for the purposes of this video, this section, we don't have to cover this section. By the way, guys, for you experts in the comments section, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on the replay, can you guys please help me understand? Let me switch my view here real quick. Can you guys help me understand the timeline of something a little bit better? I'm under the impression that even as early as 2008, 9, 10, there were protests, anonymous protests, maybe some other protests, where people had placards saying, "Where is Shelley?" But to my recollection of things, I don't remember the "Where is Shelley Miscavige" thing coming out into the public until Leah Remini told the story of how, Leah Remini left Scientology in 2013. I thought that it was her leaving Scientology and telling the story of what happened at Tom Cruise's wedding, which was in 2006 and all that stuff. I thought that's when the Shelley stuff came out. And yet I keep hearing stories of the protests with "Where is Shelley" signs happening closer to 2008. Can you guys help me understand, where did the Shelley Miscavige's missing information first come from? Because there's clearly something that I'm missing on that. If you guys can help me with that, I would really appreciate it, either in the live chat or in the comments section on the replay. Okay, let's see here. This section here, understanding Scientology equals understanding Shelley, is so incredible. I don't want to read the whole thing just for the purposes of this video, but I do recommend that you all click through to Yashar's Substack article. I've got a link in the description down below, and read this thing because it really is phenomenal. He's talking about the similarities. You know what? When he calls Scientology a borderless nation state, I have to find this thing. All right, let me just read this paragraph to you guys. Scientology is often called a cult and has some cultish aspects, but a more accurate way to describe Scientology is that it is a borderless totalitarian state and cult of personality. Scientology is like North Korea without state-sanctioned executions. From brainwashing, indoctrination, prison camps, multi-generational punishment, holding people against their will, and chasing those who try to escape, to transnational repression of dissenters, it all exists in Scientology. Like North Korea, Scientology even has what is known as face crimes. David Miscavige has been known to beat Scientology executives whose facial expressions at any given moment displease him. Former Scientologists I've spoken to over the years have told me of being scolded and interrogated at their own expense when they weren't sufficiently enthusiastic at Scientology events. Guys, so many, what struck me, I don't want to be too long-winded about this. So many places that report on Scientology fail to completely and accurately capture the nature of the Scientology and the Sea Org culture without going too far and exaggerating it. And yet this description here struck me as one of the most accurate descriptions of Scientology and particularly the Sea Org culture I've honestly ever read, without going too far. I really can't say enough about the quality of this reporting. It just really struck me. I read this last night and I've been thinking about it for like the last 12 hours. Okay. So he goes, this really does get better and better. I know I said I didn't want to read the whole thing, but it's just so damn good. For Scientologists, Scientology is like a separate state with its laws and justice system. What people have a hard time understanding is how obsessively dedicated Scientologists are. No one outside of a jihadist terrorist is more committed to a cause than a Scientologist is committed to Scientology. Scientologists will give up everything for Scientology, including their kids. They will commit crimes for Scientology. They will abuse people for Scientology. And the reason is simple. Scientologists who believe we live innumerable lives think they are on a mission to save humanity. As part of becoming a Sea Org member, Scientologists sign a $1 billion year contract. These contracts are often made fun of. It's ridiculous. I get it. But in reality, it's a terrifying indicator of commitment. What would you do for a cause that meant so much to you that you were willing to give it total control over not just this lifetime, but many lifetimes, over 1 billion years? Scientology and Scientologists are governed by thousands of policies written by founder L. Ron Hubbard. These policies can never be altered and must be interpreted literally. For Scientologists, Hubbard's policies are law. Scientologists consider Scientology law to be entirely above what they call WOG law. Scientologists call non-Scientologists WOGs. This is totally 100% accurate. Okay, we're not going to read this whole section, but basically in November 2022, Leah Remini put up a Twitter thread, basically calling out LAPD for corruption, calling out the chief of police for the Hollywood division, Corey Polka, had been busted for corruption, and Polka was one of Scientology's go-to people, so she was connecting dots there. Check out this statement. Check out this statement from the LAPD. After Remini's thread about Polka and Shelley went viral, the LAPD took the unusual step of issuing an on-record statement directly addressing Remini. Quote, the LAPD is aware of public assertions recently made by Leah Remini regarding a missing person investigation involving Shelley Miscavige. In 2014, the LAPD detectives assigned to the missing persons unit went to Shelley Miscavige's location and personally made contact with her and her attorney. Detectives found her to be alive and safe and subsequently closed the missing persons investigations. The missing persons unit handles adult missing cases throughout the city of LA and work out of the LAPD Detective Bureau. This case was not investigated by the Hollywood Division personnel and had no involvement by retired LAPD Commander Corey Polka. Yashar says, but the detectives didn't meet with Shelley in 2014. They met with her in 2013. And calling a coffee shop her location, while technically accurate, is a bit of a stretch. And Remini never said that Polka was directly involved in the investigation, merely that she was concerned that he was using his influence and access to confidential info to aid Scientology. Is it not noteworthy that every time the LAPD issues a statement about the Shelley Miscavige situation or in response to things about the Shelley Miscavige situation, they uniformly and consistently get it wrong? There's something behind that. There's something behind that. There was no reason for the LAPD to actually officially respond in this way. And if you're going to respond, how do you get it wrong every step of the way? Mischaracterizing the thing that you're responding to. It's just not honest. Okay, we're not going to read this whole thing. But this is in November 2006, the Tom Cruise wedding. This is when Leah Remini was at the wedding. She noticed that Shelley Miscavige was not there. She noticed that David Miscavige's, one of his other assistants, actually in Scientology, her post is called Communicator. A woman named Larice, otherwise known as Lou. She saw Lou patting David Miscavige's butt. She noticed Shelley Miscavige wasn't around. And she goes, where's Shelley? Now, what's interesting, guys, and this hadn't quite dawned on me until recently, by the time Leah was at at Tom Cruise's wedding and said, where's Shelley? Shelley had already been missing. Like, if that's what, sent off. Shelley had already been removed from her normal life for like almost a year and a half. Isn't that incredible? We hear about the where's Shelley thing starting at Tom Cruise's wedding. She'd actually already been sent off almost a year and a half earlier. But the nature of Sea Org life at the international base is so secluded, so reclusive, that no one really knew. Okay, we're fast forwarding here. Fast forwarding. This is a very entertaining portion of the reporting, just not particularly relevant to this video is all. Okay, so this is describing how the blowback that Leah continued to get in Scientology simply for asking about Shelley is really what led her to start asking more questions and eventually led to her leaving Scientology. Guys, this is crazy. Let me read this for you. This section, responsibilities of leaders. Michelle Shelley Diane Miscavige Barnett was born in January 1961. She became a Scientologist at the age of 4 when her parents joined. She was 12 when her parents signed over parental rights to L. Ron Hubbard. And Shelley joined the Commodore's Messengers organization. This was a Scientology Sea Org members who worked directly for L. Ron Hubbard and ran messages for him. Shelley, a 12-year-old girl with a group of other kids well under 18, serving L. Ron Hubbard and I'm sorry. Yeah, this sounds like it's taken out of context. Shelley, a 12-year-old girl with a group of other kids well under 18, serving L. Ron Hubbard and sailing on Hubbard's ship, the Apollo, all over the world. L. Ron Hubbard was their new father. His wife, Mary Sue, was now their mother. In that age of Scientology, messengers had enormous power and influence, even though they were also young, because they had direct access to Hubbard. Later, her position being so close to Hubbard and being so beloved by him would likely help lead to her disappearance. Guys, how many of you knew that Leah Remini was in the Sea organization? This doesn't get mentioned very often. Leah Remini was in the Sea organization as a young woman. Now, and she was for a short time in the Commodore's Messengers organization. This was later. Leah didn't work directly with L. Ron Hubbard, and Leah didn't work with Shelley Miscavige. But you can see that the uniform, the Messengers uniform, that's Leah Remini on the left, guys. The Messenger's uniform that Leah is wearing on the left is the same as the Messenger uniform Shelley was wearing at that similar age. Truly incredible. I mean, anyone who thinks that Leah Remini is just an actress or just a public Scientologist, no. She became a successful actress. She became later a high-profile public Scientologist. She's one of the few Scientology celebrities, maybe even the only one I know of, who actually spent time in the Sea organization. The media never mentions that, but it really is noteworthy. Okay, let's see here. This talks a little bit about how Shelley met David, how they got married, This is a very good part of this article, but just for the purposes of this video, we don't have to cover this. Talks about how in the early 2000s, Shelley basically fell out of favor with David. It says after she fell out of favor, Shelley began to face sec checks. That's security checks. That's Scientology interrogations. And she became a shell of her former self, even at one point meekly asking Mike Rinder if he noticed whether her husband Dave was still wearing his wedding band. And then she vanished. Shelley was seen being escorted to a car in tears in 2006. From then on, except for an appearance at her father's funeral in August 2007, she has never been seen again. Well, not in public. Over a dozen former Scientology officials have said they believe Shelley is living and possibly working at the Church of Spiritual Technology base located in Twin Peaks, California, in San Bernardino County, California. Gary Jackson Moorhead, the former security chief of the secretive Gold Base in Riverside County, California, said that he believes Shelley is likely being handled in a way that doesn't make her feel too restricted, but also doesn't give her freedom. On her podcast series, on Claire Headley's podcast series, Jackson told Claire, who is a former top official in RTC who reported directly to Shelly Miscavige. Oh my God, this is a weighty sentence here. Let me read this sentence in a different way. Jackson told Claire Headley that he based his assessment on how other women with highly sensitive information were handled when he was there. But Shelley doesn't have freedom of movement. She doesn't have freedom of association. She doesn't have freedom of expression. That is certainly true. Check this out, guys. This is also breaking news. In 2021, I noticed, this is Yashar Ali speaking in the first person. I noticed via a record search that Shelly Miscavige received mail at a P.O. box in Blue Jay, California, just 2 miles from the Twin Peaks compound. Other Scientologists who worked for CST were also receiving mail there. That is the closest thing I've heard that I can recall hearing of confirmation of Shelly Miscavige's existence and location. That to me is the most recent confirmation that has ever been reported on this matter. That in 2021, Yashar was able to prove Shelly Miscavige was receiving mail at a P.O. box near the Twin Peaks compound, the same P.O. box that other staff members of CST received their mail. I thought that was remarkable. It's kind of buried near the end of this thing, but I thought that was definitely noteworthy. Okay, we're going to fast forward here, guys. We're going to fast forward here. Oh, he does describe the 3 Sea Org members who are assigned to work with Shelley, keep tabs on Shelley. One of these is someone I actually know. I did not realize she was one of the people, Elsie Tucker. Elsie Tucker is how I know her. In this article, it looks like she might be going by Elsie Ben Harim. I don't know. But anyway, that was interesting to me, at least. We're going to fast forward. We're getting close to the end here, guys. Check this out. Yashar reports, over the years, people have asked me, well, what if the FBI showed up and told her she was free to leave? The answer is likely she would not leave. First, Scientologists are brainwashed into believing that law enforcement is one of their greatest enemies. Shelley probably wouldn't feel safe with law enforcement. But the reality is, as Mike Rinder has explained before, Miscavige likely believes she must stay to do the critical work of L. Ron Hubbard and is waiting for him to return. I want to say a couple things about this. First of all, for you under the radar Scientologists who are watching my channel, you guys know that one of the things I pride myself on my channel of doing is always stating it exactly as I see it without exaggerating. I just want to comment briefly on this sentence. Scientologists are brainwashed into believing that law enforcement is one of their greatest enemies. I just want to say for the record that my experience as a former Scientologist and Sea Org member, that strictly speaking, that sentence is not accurate. It depends on the context that we're talking about. I would say Scientologists view police as being irrelevant. unimportant, a waste of time, there for the other people. I just want to say that as a Scientologist, I never would have characterized the police as being my enemy. That being said, I never would have cooperated with the police in any way, shape, or form regarding anything to do with Scientology. But I wouldn't have been afraid to go to the police to report a crime, a non-Scientologist related crime. And if I personally wanted to leave Scientology and felt the police would have helped me do that, there's nothing I ever learned in Scientology that would have caused me to hesitate contacting the police. Now, if I was a Sea Org member in Los Angeles, I might hesitate because I know that the Scientology and the LAPD are very cozy. Even up in Riverside County, where Scientology's international management base is, I might also have the same hesitation. Scientology is very cozy with the sheriff's department or the highway patrol or whoever it is that has that jurisdiction. But just as a Scientologist, they don't believe the police are the enemy. They believe the police are unimportant, irrelevant for everyone else. So I just wanted to comment on that. There was something else I wanted to comment on here. Yeah, the fact that the Sea Org members working at the international base, particularly ones who've been there since the 80s, were told and genuinely believe L. Ron Hubbard is coming back. This is a crazy thing because it's crazy because none of the other Scientologists in the world were ever told this. None of the other Scientologists in the world believe this. In fact, they believe the opposite. L. Ron Hubbard had a lecture where he said he was going to go off to Target 2, which was supposed to be some other planet in some other solar system, even some other galaxy. No, it probably would have been this galaxy, actually, now that I think about it. He was going to go off to Target 2 and get Scientology started on the second planet. That's why it's called Target 2. And we were going to finish the job of clearing Earth. And clearing means getting at least half the population of Earth up to Scientology's state of clear. It can be easily forgotten that someone like a Shelley Miscavige would possibly consider it treasonous to L. Ron Hubbard to abandon the Sea Organization or abandon Scientology just because David Miscavige is being a giant douche caboose and destroying everything. Like put yourself in Shelley's mindset or someone like Shelley. Shelley's not the only one who would think this way. That if L. Ron Hubbard were to return tomorrow and Shelley had abandoned her post or abandoned the Sea Organization, abandoned Scientology, and wasn't there to help, quote unquote, make things right again when L. Ron Hubbard returned, that would be a really big deal. So anyway, it was, I thought it was amazing that Yashar included that in this thing because it does tend to contradict the narrative that Shelley's being held against her will. Even though it's certainly true that she doesn't have freedom of movement or expression or association, those things are all true. Both of these things are true at the same time. This is why a lot of Sea Org executives have been disappeared. Guillaume Leserve, Mark Yeager, Mark Ingber, Heber Jensch, although that's a different situation. Ray Midoff, Norman Starkey, Greg Wilhair, a lot of these guys sort of disappeared. Although, to be fair, Shelley's probably under much more secure. She probably has much less freedom of movement and association than the other guys I've just mentioned. Okay, this is a remarkable portion. I'm sorry it's taking me so long to get to this, guys. I didn't think we'd already be 33 minutes into this video. She could take the whole thing down. Shelley is a threat for two reasons. First, she had 20 years of direct exposure to everything David Miscavige did. This included overseeing complex operations to intimidate whistleblowers and witnesses, and she had access to the confessions of crimes by Scientologists during their auditing sessions. She also witnessed Miscavige physically assaulting Scientology executives. She was privy to his involvement in various matters, ranging from the lengths he went to obtain tax exemption from the IRS, to the circumstances surrounding the death of Lisa McPherson. The Lisa McPherson case almost led to criminal charges against Miscavige. All of these instances are merely the tip of the iceberg. Due to her close relationship with Hubbard, working for him directly as a messenger on the Apollo ship, Shelley has a lot of moral authority with Scientologists. Mike Rinder and Tom DeVocht have said that if anyone could incite a mutiny against Miscavige, it would be Shelley. 17 years after she disappeared, Shelley still holds the unique power that only Tom Cruise has. If she were willing to share what she knows, she could end Scientology as we know it. And that's precisely why she's been isolated. That is such a perfect encapsulation of what has happened with Shelley has happened with Shelley. She is a threat to Miscavige, not just a threat to run to the authorities and turn them into the FBI and all that stuff, but also a threat that if someone could overthrow Miscavige and take control, it would be Shelley. It really would be. So a threat in more ways than one. Okay, and the wrap up to this article, he sort of, Yashar brings it back to the LAPD and how their mishandling of this situation has really robbed Shelley of the opportunity to, even over time, perhaps choose that she would rather leave. So let's check this out. A missed opportunity. What if the LAPD detectives had told Shelley that Remini had filed the report? What if they had pushed Shelley further to learn why she didn't appear in public anymore and why she had completely cut off every friend she'd ever known? This so-called onion peeling could have begun when Shelley returned home after meeting with the detectives. Perhaps Shelley's handlers told her that people like Leah were disgusted with her and didn't even want to know her. Knowing that Leah Remini was trying to fight for her could have sparked a realization. At that point, and still today, there's a strong possibility that Shelley had no idea that Leah had left Scientology. No idea who the president of the United States was. No idea that millions of people were tweeting and posting her name. The LAPD's refusal to follow standard law enforcement procedures may have robbed Shelley of 10 years of freedom. And Yashar actually publishes the entire letter that Leah had given the LAPD to hand to Shelley. And the LAPD never gave that letter to her. Okay. The very last few paragraphs here. 10 years after Leah Remini filed the missing persons report, the memory of Shelley Miscavige is growing distant. The friends she grew up with in Scientology are in their late 60s, 70s, and 80s, and some have died since she disappeared. The idea that Shelley could be free to live as she pleases seem ever more improbable. It's a reality that Remini was well aware of when she wrote that letter to Shelley, just weeks after Remini herself officially left Scientology. The same note she had hoped would be given to Shelley by the LAPD. Remini ended her letter with a warning. If you don't do it now, you probably won't have another chance to get out. Remini was focused on Scientology as the obstacle to Shelley's freedom. At the time, she was idealizing that LAPD as the organization. At the time, she was idealizing the LAPD as the organization that could rescue her friend. She had no idea that the law enforcement agency she had hoped would liberate Shelley was helping to achieve David Miscavige's goal of turning Shelley into a non-person. The LAPD didn't even think that Shelley was worth an extra set of fingerprints. And that is the end of that reporting. He does say, by the way, if you have any tip about Scientology, David Miscavige, or any other person on this topic, you can contact Yashar at 310-795-2497 or at yasharmail@proton.me. I'll put that contact information in the description down below. Now, guys, as far as the whole not going back and getting fingerprints from Shelley and everything, if we wanted to be generous, if we wanted to be overly generous, if we wanted to be downright naive, we could probably say that, getting Shelley's photo ID, her driver's license, and seeing her and everything was enough to verify that it was, in fact, Shelley Miscavige, and the fingerprints, weren't necessary. And there might be some truth to that. But when you are dealing with an organization like Scientology, cutting corners is the exact opposite of what you want to do. That is, if you're a legitimate ethical organization. I mean, just due to public perception alone, if you are an LAPD detective, cutting corners is what is going to continue to maintain the perception that you guys are in the pocket of Scientology. And you think that you would have an interest in doing something about that perception, unless you really are in the pocket of Scientology, which it's pretty evident that you are. You would want to go the exact other to the other end of the you would want the pendulum to swing the complete other way, as opposed to cutting corners. You would want the supervisor and the supervising supervisor and the supervising detective 3, or whatever the hell they call them. You would want everyone, the whole team, making sure you would want to double cross those T's and double dot those I's. I mean, you would want to go above and beyond to handle everything by the book. The fact that they didn't handle it by the book also helps explain why they gave Leah Remini the runaround for years and for tens of thousands of dollars, not wanting to share with her how all of this went down. All of that could have been avoided if they just did it right to begin with, but they didn't. And over and over and over again, they go that route, cutting corners, being inappropriate. That's why I highlighted their inappropriate response to Leah on Twitter. Why? Why do that? Why do that? Why do you keep doing things that don't make sense? Why do you keep doing things that are inappropriate? Because you're corrupt. That's why. There's just no way around it. Okay, let's see. I guess that's it, guys. I didn't mean for this video to be as long as it was, but I guess that's okay. Let me jump over to the super chats real quick and we'll call this one. I have a bunch more videos to do today, including an interview that you guys are going to love. Okay, Pat Shore. What prints did they try to match? Was she ever arrested? Does she even have fingerprints on file? Pat, it was the fingerprints on file with the DMV. That was the answer to that. Pat Shore, you are not fingerprinted for your driver's license. You know, I was trying to jog my memory on this too. I don't remember being fingerprinted for my driver's license. I do remember being fingerprinted at the DMV for other certain licenses that I will not specify on a YouTube video. Yeah, that's a damn good question, actually. You know, I'm going to ask you, Shar. And I'll try to do some sort of a follow-up. Or, of course, if he does a follow-up article, I'll do a video about his follow-up article. But I'm going to ask him. Thank you for that question. Jenny Davis, can't a new missing person inquiry be opened based on the obvious obstruction here? Absolute criminal behavior by the LAPD. Jenny, I think all the evidence right now tends to indicate, though, that she is alive and where she is. I don't know that you could honestly submit a missing persons request at this point. Even Yashar's reporting on this matter does tend to confirm that she is alive and working at the CST base in Twin Peaks, California. That's my answer, at least. That's my opinion. Pat Shore, do you know when Leah's appointment with the LAPD is? Pat, God, I haven't spoken to Leah. I mean, I actually did speak to Leah, but I didn't ask her that. Let me find out and I'll do a video about that. I have not had confirmation from Leah that she has an appointment on the books with the LAPD, but I also don't have confirmation that she doesn't. So let me follow that up and I'll get back to you on that. Derek Wagner, could Leah go to state police, state attorney general, or Department of Justice for a real investigation? This reeks like a hobo taint. Love it. It's a great image, Derek. Thank you for that. I don't necessarily, let me see. Could Leah go to the state police? She could go to anybody, but even Yashar's reporting tends to indicate Shelley's not actually missing at this point, but that an opportunity was certainly missed back in 2013 to inform Shelley that people are looking for her, that people do want to help her, that people want to know that if they want to be in touch with them, they, if she wants to be in touch with them, they want to be in touch with her. This article is really about the missed opportunity based on how the LAPD dropped the ball. And how the LAPD has consistently been doing David Miscavige's bidding for him. But I don't think Yashar would say that Shelley's missing at this point, depending on how we're using the word. Okay. Lynn Dunnigan Little. Sounds like Shelley called Davey over his over-the-top crap, so Shelley had to go. Yeah. All the information that's come out does tend to paint that picture. Shelley was starting to question Dave's sanity. She was starting to worry about his mental fitness, and that Shelley herself, I think she was even worried at one point that David himself might blow. And I think I've heard some mention that Shelley had made one statement about maybe she was considering leaving at some point. But either way, things were definitely going south between the two of them. Absolutely. Cassandra Reiners, love your new intro. Please keep it. Suck it, Davey. Yes. Thank you, Cassandra. Austin D. Edorado, loved your interview with Mitch Brisker. Thank you, Austin. You're one of the few who did. People had very not nice things to say about either me or Mitch, but we will be doing it again very soon. I mean, if there was enough time, we'd probably do it today, but there's a lot going on today. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate it. All right, everyone, that is all I have for now. Guys, if you're watching right now, please hit that like button. It actually helps. And if you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. That actually helps too. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thanks to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.